For more than 1,000 years, Constantinople had survived invasion, rebellion, and war. Protected by walls and crowned by the domes of a fading empire, the city seemed almost impossible to conquer. But in the spring of 1453, danger gathered beyond its gates, and the last great capital of the Roman world prepared for a struggle that could end its history. Outside the walls, the Ottoman camp came alive before sunrise. Tents stretched across the land, horses stood ready, and thousands of soldiers prepared for a siege that would decide the fate of the Byzantine Empire. This was a campaign against one of the most famous cities on earth. At the center of the campaign stood Sultan Mehmed II. He was only 21 years old, but his ambition was enormous. Other rulers had failed to take Constantinople. Mehmed intended to succeed. To him, the city was more than a military target. It controlled a crossing between Europe and Asia. To break the city's defenses, he brought bronze bombards. These weapons could hurl heavy stone projectiles against walls that had protected Constantinople for centuries. Their power announced a new age of warfare. Ancient fortifications were facing weapons they had never been designed to withstand. From the Theodosian Walls, Byzantine guards watched the Ottoman army gathering in the distance. They saw tents, banners, cavalry, artillery, and supply wagons across the landscape. Outnumbered and isolated, they prepared for the attack. Behind them stood their homes, families, and the remains of an empire. Around the great cannon, Ottoman crews moved ammunition, tightened ropes, checked wooden supports, and prepared the weapon for firing. Every movement required effort. The bombard had one purpose: opening a path through the walls. Mehmed studied the city from his camp. He understood that victory would require more than numbers. It would require discipline, pressure, and planning. His army stood ready. Among its most feared troops were the Janissaries, elite infantry trained to strike when the defenders were exhausted. The great bombards became the symbol of the siege. Huge and terrifying, they were designed to batter the walls until stone and human endurance gave way. Inside the city stood Hagia Sophia, the great Byzantine church. Its dome had watched over Constantinople for centuries, a reminder of the empire's former wealth and power. Yet by 1453, that empire had been reduced to little more than the capital itself. Constantinople was also a major port. Its harbors connected Europe and Asia, the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. Merchants, sailors, food, weapons, and wealth passed through a city built on trade. In the markets, life continued under the shadow of war. Traders sold goods, workers carried supplies, and families waited for news from the walls. This was not only a fortress, it was a living city facing destruction. Ottoman ships gathered around the capital, threatening its harbors and cutting off hope of outside assistance. Mehmed intended to surround Constantinople by land and sea. Then the bombardment began. The great cannon fired, sending a heavy stone projectile toward the city. Smoke filled the air, the ground shook, and the sound rolled across the battlefield. The impact shattered stone and blasted open sections of the wall. Dust and broken masonry filled the air. For the first time, the ancient defenses appeared vulnerable, yet the defenders refused to surrender. At night, under torchlight, soldiers and civilians carried timber, earth, and rubble into the damaged sections. Priests prayed while workers rebuilt what they could before sunrise. By morning, many breaches had been blocked again. Then the cannons fired once more. Day after day, smoke covered the battlefield. The walls weakened, the defenders grew more exhausted, and the siege became a contest of endurance. The Ottomans had more troops and supplies. The defenders had courage and hope that help might arrive. Mehmed continued planning. He studied maps, consulted commanders, and searched for a way around one of the city's strongest defenses, the chain across the entrance to the Golden Horn. The chain prevented Ottoman ships from entering the protected harbor. As long as it remained in place, the defenders could focus on the western land walls. Instead of breaking it, Mehmed decided to bypass it. Under Ottoman direction, ships were hauled overland on prepared timbers and lowered into the Golden Horn behind the chain. Men and animals dragged the vessels while soldiers guarded the operation. When the people of Constantinople saw Ottoman ships inside the protected harbor, they understood the danger. The city now faced attack from another direction, and its defenders were forced to guard a wider perimeter. The walls were damaged, the harbor was threatened, Supplies were shrinking, exhaustion was spreading, and no major relief army had arrived. Constantinople had survived for more than 1,000 years. But in 1453, the forces surrounding it were closing in, and the city was moving toward the final battle that would change history forever.